My name is Marcus Webb. For most of my life, I was the person you'd trust with the music at your church. 12 years leading worship, 11 years directing the choir, the person who stood at the front on Sunday mornings and guided others into the presence of God. I knew the songs that opened something in people. I knew the prayers that made a room go quiet in the right way. And then I walked away. 7 years ago. There was no drama, no big announcement. I simply stopped showing up. If you'd asked me why, I would have told you I lost faith. That would have been half true. The full truth is something I kept filed away in a drawer I didn't open, a drawer with my daughter's name on it. Emma, 3 months old, and then gone. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you this because what happened to me on a Tuesday in October, a night I fully expected to be the last night of my life, didn't happen to a believer. It happened to a man who had spent 7 years building a wall between himself and God, brick by brick, convinced the bitterness was justified, that the silence was a choice, that grief was the only honest response to a God who let infants die. That night, Sarah was working late. I was alone when I felt it. A pressure in my chest that arrived without warning, like something had reached inside my ribcage and squeezed. I tried to stand. I couldn't. I hit the floor. My guitar case was in the corner of the room. I remember seeing it as I fell. I hadn't opened it in 7 years either. The last thing I thought before the darkness took me was, this is it. I had no idea how right I was, and how wrong. What I came back with changed how I pray, how I read the Bible, and what I believe about the words you say when no one else is listening. I need to tell you what I saw, because it changes everything about how prayer actually works. I expected nothing. If I'm honest, in those final seconds on the floor, I had prepared myself for nothing. For the kind of darkness that means absence. That means the story is over. That was the worldview I had built in the years since Emma. There was nothing after this. There couldn't be. If there were, I'd have to answer for why I turned away from it. What I got instead was not nothing. I became aware. It happened all at once. It was like waking up inside a dream, except the exact opposite. This was the moment I knew this was absolutely real, entirely devoid of hallucination. This was real. More real than anything I had lived since Emma. I was moving. I had no body, no physical sensation, but I was moving, and the movement had direction. I know what people expect, that in these moments, you go up, that there is light, that the default of the universe is mercy and warmth and the sense of going home. I was not going up. I was descending. The darkness around me was not empty. It had weight. It had temperature. A biting chill, like the lingering frost of a room where something terrible happened a long time ago. And it had directionality. I wasn't just floating. I was falling. It lacked the panicked, flailing motion of a nightmare, replaced instead by the slow, impossible certainty of a stone sinking in deep water. Far below me, impossibly far, farther than anything should be. I felt heat. It lacked any comforting warmth, radiating instead like the functional output of something industrial and permanent. And beneath the heat, sound. Or not sound exactly. Vibration that carried emotion the way music carries emotion. Except this carried only one thing. Despair. Multiplied. Organized. Coming from beneath me. I kept waiting for someone to stop it. No one did. And what I was about to see, I was not supposed to come back from. The descent slowed. I don't know why. I don't know if I slowed or if I arrived somewhere I was meant to arrive. But the movement stopped, and I could see. I was on an elevated position. I don't have a better word for it. Looking outward and downward, across a landscape that my brain struggled to categorize, because it was unlike anything language has prepared me to describe. It was organized. That was the first thing that struck me, and it was the most disturbing thing. Whatever this place was, it had been designed. The chaos I had been falling through alone, the dread, the heat from below, the organized despair of that place, all of it shifted in a single instant. Something changed in the quality of where I was standing. And that was when the guide appeared. There was no introduction, no voice. One moment I was alone. and the next, I was not. There was a presence beside me, luminous in a way that felt understated, like light that knew it was enough without announcing itself. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. It simply directed my attention with the precision of something that had done this before. Where it looked, I looked. And I looked. 3 zones. I couldn't tell you the distances. Scale in that place doesn't translate. But I could see them. And the differences between them were functional, not decorative. The outermost zone was cold, isolated. There were souls there locked in something I could only describe as compulsion with nowhere to go. Doing the thing that had destroyed them, still, without being able to stop. Some screamed, some didn't. The ones who didn't scream hit me hardest. There was something about that stillness, the posture of someone who had simply run out of even the energy for despair. I recognized something in the outer rim without being able to name it. Not faces, postures. There was the posture of someone who always meant to get around to it. The posture of someone who never believed there was anything to get around to. I had been in that second posture for 7 years. The middle zone was louder, fire-lit, chaotic, demonic presence moving in patterns that were clearly strategic. The inner zone, deepest, darkest, was the most terrifying precisely because it was quiet, deliberate in a way the outer zones weren't. Why were some souls in the outer rim completely silent while others screamed? I didn't understand yet. Then I felt something, a resonance, arriving from far above. It arrived without warning. Carrying no sound or visible light, it manifested as a frequency, like something that had descended through layers of atmosphere and arrived in this place still carrying the full authority of wherever it came from. It passed through the air, through the ground. And the moment it arrived, the demon active in the outer rim, mid-action, stopped. I watched it recoil. It wasn't a theatrical flinch. It violently jerked back, much like a living creature reacting to sudden, agonizing pain. Involuntary, full body, the movement that comes before thought. It writhed. It released what it had been doing, and the soul it had been working on simply breathed, like a fist had opened. The guide did not speak. It didn't need to. I understood. That was a prayer. A prayer spoken somewhere on earth. In a kitchen, in a car, in a hospital corridor at 3 a.m, had just passed through whatever barrier separates the living world from this one, and had landed here with physical force. I watched the demon recover, shaken, diminished, but not destroyed. And as it recovered, it looked upward with an expression I will spend the rest of my life struggling to describe. Not fear exactly. Something older than fear. The first prayer, and I was given understanding of its nature without hearing the actual words, was a prayer invoking the blood of Jesus directly and specifically. It carried no vague generalities. It possessed the absolute authority of a binding legal document, naming a person, a situation, a place, declaring coverage, not requesting it. The difference matters. A request can be delayed. A declaration requires an answer. I had used prayers like that when I was leading worship. I had no idea they landed here. The guide moved, and I followed. We didn't go into the outer rim. We moved above the middle zone, a different vantage point. I could feel the difference immediately. Denser, hotter, the sound of coordination rather than compulsion. The demonic presence here was not scattered. It was clustered. Multiple entities tracking targets I couldn't see, maintaining operations with the efficiency of something that had been doing this for a very long time. Then the second resonance arrived. Different from the first. Where the first prayer had been declarative, clean, specific, authoritative, this one carried something else entirely. Grief turned to fire. The best description I have. Someone on Earth had broken something, had named a connection they held that they shouldn't have held, and they had renounced it. It was far from casual. It carried the weight of finally understanding what a toxic bond has cost you, and decisively cutting it off. The reaction was not one demon recoiling. An entire cluster stumbled. I watched them fall. Not all, but several. I watched one thrown sideways as if struck by something it couldn't see. I watched another seize, release its hold on whatever it had been gripping, and go silent. The coordination broke apart not piece by piece but all at once, as if the thing that had held their strategy together had simply ceased to exist. Whatever they had been maintaining on whatever target above, it sheared through. Gone. For a moment, the demonic hierarchy scrambled, attempted to reorient, and I saw something I had not expected to see. Frustration that bordered on panic. Fear of the person who had prayed. I was watching prayer function. Stripped of metaphor or mere comfort, it operated as sheer force. But there were three, and the guide had not shown me the third yet. I didn't know then that the third was the reason I was in danger. Something became aware of me. I don't know if the guide's absence created a gap in whatever protection I had been inside, but I was suddenly alone, the guide simply not there anymore. And from the deep central zone, something old and large turned its attention upward, toward me. The warden moved differently from everything else I had witnessed. It lacked the frantic coordination of the middle zone and the compulsive repetition of the outer rim. It moved with the complete, unhurried confidence of something that had never been successfully challenged in its own domain, and had been in its own domain for a very long time. When it spoke, the voice was wrong in a physical way. Not one voice, but several, layered at frequencies that didn't quite align, like an echo from a room where the geometry was incorrect. And it was speaking directly to me. It said I had no claim, that no one was coming for me, that the records it maintained, 7 years of spiritual absence, bitterness deliberately cultivated, a wall built stone by stone, had been legally filed, that every brick in the wall I built between myself and God was also a brick in a wall I had built around myself, that I had done this work myself, that no one had forced me. It wasn't wrong. That was the part that cut the deepest. The warden was describing my last 7 years accurately. I had chosen every brick. I had been so certain the bitterness was mine to keep. I had no idea it was also a transaction. I had no weapon. I had no prayer. I had nothing. I stood there with that truth. The warden was right. I had built everything it was describing. I had chosen it. I stayed in that for a moment that felt much longer than a moment. And then, I was not alone. Without warning or transition. One moment I was facing the weight of everything the warden had just said. And the next, the entire condition of the space changed. Not the way a light switches on. More as if the atmosphere itself had shifted. As if I were suddenly existing in a different kind of air. And the air had awareness in it, and the awareness was ancient and unmistakable and utterly unafraid. Then the voice. I knew it. I didn't recognize it from my waking life, but from somewhere far older than memory. The voice spoke, and something in me recognized it the same way a suffocating man instinctively breathes in oxygen. Without argument. Without delay. The presence didn't speak to the warden first. It spoke to me. It called me by name, reaching beyond just Marcus or Marcus Webb, using something that felt like the name beneath the name, the deeply hidden identity that knows about Emma, the name that knows about the guitar in the corner, the name that has been witnessing every moment I almost turned back and chose bitterness instead, the name that somehow had been waiting for exactly this. It said that name. And for one instant I saw Emma. It wasn't a mere vision or a fleeting memory. Just her. 3 months old and wonderfully real, anchoring me to that last moment before everything changed. The presence held that with me, just held it, and I broke open. It wasn't a violent shattering. Rather, it mirrored the sudden fracturing of something locked away under immense pressure for far too long. 7 years of grief and bitterness, and the specific pain of a man who knew faith was real and turned away from it. All of it unraveled in a single moment. And for the first time since Emma died, I was not holding it. The presence was in it with me. Then the presence turned toward the warden. The third prayer was not spoken into the air. It was released into the situation, much like exhaling a long-held breath, as something that had been contained and was now fully itself. And what it was. Going far beyond a simple plea, or even a declaration of authority like the first prayer. It was an act of praise and a proclamation of absolute sovereignty, that God reigns over every domain, over this domain, without negotiation, without exception, without the possibility of appeal. The warden had no category for this. I watched it try to process what it was hearing. It had encountered prayers that resisted it. It had encountered prayers that broke its operations. but it had never encountered a prayer that didn't need anything from it at all. A prayer that simply stated, with complete certainty, that the territory it had operated in for millennia belonged to someone else entirely, and always had. The warden screamed. That word is inadequate, but it is the only word I have. That sound, I will carry it for the rest of my life, not as a horror, but as proof. It was the sound of something ancient being overruled, the sound of an authority that had never been successfully challenged, finally encountering the one thing it genuinely could not metabolize. The scream tore through the entire zone. Not a sound that moved through air, but one that passed through the structure of that place itself, like a fault line releasing. Every entity in the observation range collapsed into incoherence simultaneously. The coordinated strategies fractured all at once. Silence fell on the middle zone for what felt like the first time in an eternity. The warden stumbled backward, clawing at itself, and for one suspended moment, it looked genuinely, specifically afraid. The expression of something that has operated in absolute certainty for millennia and has just encountered the one thing that makes that certainty irrelevant. Then the presence told me why I had been brought here. This was not for me alone. The blood declaration, the renunciation break, the sovereign praise, these aren't rare tools reserved strictly for the theologically trained. They are universally available to anyone who breathes and believes. I had been shown this so I would say so clearly, without holding anything back. That was my mission. That was why I was being sent back. I was back. It happened instantly. One moment I was in that place. The next, body, weight, carpet under my cheek. The smell of an ordinary room, wood, dust, a faint trace of coffee. Having a body felt like the strangest thing that had ever happened to me. Then I heard Sarah's voice on the phone, screaming that he's not breathing. He's not breathing. Please hurry. I have never heard a more important sound in my life. The paramedics came. I survived. You know that. Because I'm here. My heart had stopped. And then it started. And Sarah was the one who found me. She had come home early. She doesn't know why. She just felt, somewhere in herself, like she should come home. I didn't tell her immediately, but she saw something. The bitterness she had spent 7 years learning to navigate. The grief that had calcified into something quiet and immovable. It wasn't there. The man she was looking at was not the man who had been managing his damage for 7 years. She said later she saw something she hadn't seen since before Emma. Something she had almost forgotten was possible. The first thing I did when they told me I could go home was open the guitar case. I didn't play anything. I just needed to know I could reach for it. That was enough. What happened to me didn't just restore faith. It reframed the 7 years I had lost. The warden had named the bitterness as something cultivated. Spiritual absence deliberately maintained. A man with that much knowledge who refuses to use it is far more valuable to the wrong side than a man who never knew. I knew the weapons. I had chosen to lay them down. Emma, her name. The presence knew it without me having to say anything. And in that moment, the grief I had kept buried for 7 years was finally reached. It wasn't magically erased, but handled, like a wound, finally cleaned. I led worship for 12 years. I prayed those prayers hundreds of times. I had no idea what was happening when I did. Here is what I know now. The 3 prayers are not mystical objects. They are 3 types of action targeting 3 specific mechanisms of spiritual opposition. The blood declaration undermines legal claim. Specific, declarative, naming a person or situation and covering it with the authority of Christ's sacrifice. It operates as a binding decree rather than a simple plea. The renunciation prayer breaks operational hold. When someone names what binds them and breaks it with authority, the structures maintaining that hold collapse. I watched it happen in real time. The sovereign praise prayer overrules authority entirely. Praise not as sentiment, but as proclamation. God reigns over this, without exception. Presents something that has no counter-argument. The warden couldn't metabolize it. You cannot negotiate with sovereignty. You can only flee from it. I am not telling you this because I had an interesting experience. I am telling you this because what I saw is not historical. It is operational right now, in the lives of people watching this. And most believers who pray never use these 3 prayers with any understanding of what they are actually doing. This isn't because the prayers are hidden knowledge. They were never secret. It's because no one told them what prayer actually is in the spiritual dimension. Far from a wish submitted upward and possibly granted, it is an act with real consequences in real places that intersect with this one. The souls in the outer rim who were completely silent were silent because no prayer was arriving for them. No disruption. The silence was not peace. It was absence. You are on the other side of that line. That means these 3 prayers belong to you. They are meant to be used with genuine understanding, rather than empty ritual or rigid formula. Cover it. Name it. Declare it. Break what needs to be broken, with authority and specificity. Then declare that God reigns over this, completely, without exception, without negotiation. I came back from the floor of my home office a different man. I'm still far from perfect, and I don't have everything figured out. But I am a man who knows what prayer does and cannot unknow it. Neither can you now. Use it.